Today, we will talk property taxes in Port St. Lucie, Florida. Oh yes, I know this is a hot button for everybody. Whether you lived in Port St. Lucie the last 10 years, you're wondering why your taxes are so high, or you just bought a new construction home and you're saying, what? Yeah, I know. These are the questions that I field every day. And we are going to dive deep into this thing today. So everybody wants to know why these taxes are so high. Here's the first thing I would tell you and ask. So yes, cat is out of the bag. Everybody knows that Port St. Lucie has one of the highest taxes, property taxes per mil in the entire state of Florida. Look it up for yourself, see all the information, all the data. I'm not saying they're number one, two, sometimes it fluctuates. It's high. The question I have for you is, would you prefer to pay an extra $3,000 a year in your tax base, or get a house at a much cheaper price? Here's an example. Here in Port St. Lucie, our taxes may be $3,000 a year more per mil than, let's say, Fort Lauderdale. But in Fort Lauderdale, $650,000 will get you a dump that is 1,400 square feet. And by the way, it's still going to cost you upwards of $100,000 in upgrades to make it look decent. Where you can come to Port St. Lucie and buy a beautiful house for $450,000 that's much bigger, much newer, much quieter area. So the trade-off is, do you want to pay a couple extra $1,000s a year in taxes, or be able to afford a beautiful house, which you couldn't do in South Florida, Fort Lauderdale, Miami, West Palm Beach? That's the trade-off. For me personally, and a lot of other people, yeah, the tax issue, it stinks, it sucks. But many people in Port St. Lucie could never afford that house they're living in if it was in Coral Springs or anywhere else in Fort Lauderdale. So keep that in mind as we tackle this issue on the property taxes in Port St. Lucie. My name is Jonathan B.J. Hayes, local realtor here in beautiful Port St. Lucie, Florida. Thank you for returning back to the home of Port St. Lucie Real Estate. As always, make sure you subscribe to the channel, share the videos, like the videos, and tell a friend about the wonderful things going on here in beautiful Port St. Lucie, Florida. Anybody out there who's looking to buy or sell a home here in Port St. Lucie, all my information is in the description below. So we're going to get after this whole property tax debate in Port St. Lucie. There is no debate. It's high. We have one of the highest millage rates in the entire state of Florida. So the first thing I want to go over is, what in the world do your property taxes actually do? The whole purpose of them is for essential services: public education, law enforcement, fire protection, and infrastructure. That's how your city gets built out. That's where the money is supposed to go. Notice I said supposed to go. We, as taxpayers and voters, believe that the people we put in elected positions do what they're supposed to do with your money. Supposed to. Number two, taxes are calculated by what's called a millage rate. That millage rate is what is used to determine how much money you will actually pay every year for your property taxes to pay for those infrastructure issues and those things that the city needs. So the question is, Why is Port St. Lucie so high? This is the question I get nonstop. So here are some of the reasons why our property taxes and millage rate is so high. Number one, first of all, the rapid growth. So over the past 2 decades, and really accelerated since the pandemic of 2020, it's just Port St. Lucie has seen insane growth. At one time, Port St. Lucie was, I believe, the 4th fastest growing city in the entire United States during the pandemic. Like, it got nuts. There were so many people moving here. So you saw the price of homes, well, over the past 4 years, our median price point has went from $240,000 to $420,000 in 4 years, because so many people have ran here to take advantage of newer houses, bigger lots, bigger houses in peace and quiet. Next, so local government funding is also what this tax money goes to. So all city projects come from your tax money. Easy thing to do is just jack up the millage rate. So when you're building out infrastructure, lights, roads, streets, bridges, all the above, the easiest way to get more money in your city, just jack up the millage rate. When you jack up the millage rate, ooh, your city can start to produce some serious numbers. All right. The next thing I want to move into here is the higher property values. So when you have all these people coming, you have houses going from 240 to 420, this jacks up the property value. So it's good for everybody that's lived here a long time and paid $150,000 for a house, because now your house is worth $500,000. But what that also does is it jacks up your property taxes. That's another reason why these taxes are so crazy high. Now, I know you're going to ask, how far can they go? I don't know exactly what the cutoff is, but they are allowed to continue to increase these millage rates and their assessment practices. So Florida property tax system allows for adjustments based on conditions. The property goes up and so does your taxes. But when prices go down, do our property taxes go down? Isn't it amazing how things always go up, but they never seem to come down in our favor? Stay tuned as the markets change. The reason why we're discussing this today is because the trim notices have came out, and I've got a number of calls from people I've sold houses to, people thinking about selling houses, and just flat out people that know I sell houses in Port St. Lucie asking me these questions. Also, you need to remember there's specific local factors like new projects. Example, expanding roadways, like on Port St. Lucie Boulevard over there by Gatlin, how they've been expanding the roads. It seems like forever. Projects like that, that's where they pull the money from. Okay, so what does this mean for residents in Port St. Lucie? Here's what it means, and here's the biggest way we are affected. This really affects affordability of housing. So yeah, there's a ton of people who move here from New York, New Jersey, Boston, Connecticut, or they come from Miami or Fort Lauderdale and sell a big house, and they come and they buy stuff cash and pocket the rest of it. That's great. That's just a small percentage of Port St. Lucie. People have to understand This town is not going to be able to live in lunch forever off of 55 plus people coming with a boatload of cash. The majority of people live, work, and play here, whether they work in West Palm Beach, Fort Lauderdale, kids go to school here. That's the backbone of your city. And when policemen, fire chiefs, school teachers, nurses can't afford to buy a house, you're going to have a problem. So affordability is an issue for people on fixed income and first-time home buyers. It's starting to become a real issue. Here's what I'm going to tell you. It's crucial that before you purchase a home, you totally understand the taxes. The best number for you to remember is this. If you're going to buy a house, say to yourself, your yearly property taxes is roughly going to be 2% of purchase price. So if you buy a house for $450,000, times that by 0.02, it's going to give you $9,000. Roughly, that's going to be what your taxes per year are going to be. They may be a little more, little less, depending on where you are. You may get a bigger break with your homestead exemption, but use that number when you're going to buy a house. This will sort of keep you on track and so you don't get sticker shock. Port St. Lucie may have higher taxes now. Let's clarify why. So now you can challenge your elected officials. You know, a lot of times we only vote for the big presidential elections. Elections go on in Port St. Lucie all the time. Don't let these people lie to you. Don't let these people continue to pull the wool over your eyes. If you don't like what's going on, go to the council meetings, sit in them, and exercise your right to vote. Get to know your city. You have a right to do so, guys. Here are some of the things you may hear of why our taxes are so high. Number one, and this is based off things that have happened in the past, guys. Even before I got here, I've been here for 10 years now. And here's some of the things that I hear from people who have lived here a long time. And I've heard them uttered when people question why our taxes are so high. Infrastructure, water and sewer financing debt. So I guess there was a lot of huge debt they took on years ago when they first set up the water and sewage infrastructure that supposedly we're still paying for today. Here's another one you're going to hear. Business tax breaks from the digital domain building. That's where now the church is. That basically the city, I guess, kind of gave to them when it really comes down to it. But back in the day, they gave tax breaks to the digital domain. They built this huge building. It was supposed to bring in all this money. And in the digital domain, people never showed up and backed out. And supposedly they've been paying on this debt forever. I can tell you, I've been here 10 years. I've been hearing this. I think this digital domain thing was back in like 2006. It's been 20 years. The city swears they're still paying for it. I don't know, but whenever you bring it up, it's these two issues that say, this is the reason why our taxes are still so high. I'm just telling you what the word is on the street. Also, the Civic Center where we're going to build the new downtown, I guess when the people who were doing the original development, when they sold it, something happened and they didn't pay the property taxes on it and the city got stuck with it. These three issues are the reasons why everybody swears we're still underwater with taxes. Do I believe it at this point? Quite frankly, no. And I'll tell you, I don't believe it because I sell houses here. I know how much these houses cost and how much people are paying for taxes. I've personally seen the average taxes go, back in 2014 from people paying $2,600 a year for taxes. Now people are paying $9,000 a year. Come on, with all the building, all the everything. Not to mention, let's remember this, out in tradition, they pay a CDD on top of their taxes. So don't lump in and tell me all tradition and all this. Stop. We need accounted for where this money is going. I'm giving you this information so you can better understand your taxes. You have a right to question where your money's going. Call the tax collector's office, all right? Call them. Challenge them. Why are my taxes so high? Where's my money going? All in all, Port St. Lucie, as much as this is a gripe fest about the taxes, guys, it's still a great place to live, raise a family, and still get a more affordable, bigger house. Now, has the affordability went sort of like this here in Port St. Lucie? Yes, to the naked eye. But when you still compare it to Fort Lauderdale, Miami, West Palm Beach, even if you go on the other side of the state, Tampa, Naples, even parts of Jacksonville have gotten crazy. Man, it's still one of the best places you can live if you're gonna live in the state of Florida and have a newer house. Remember, most of Port St. Lucie wasn't even built to the year 2000. Anywhere in the US you go and you say you have a 25-year-old house, that's considered a new house, guys. So just keep that in mind. I hope all this information I gave you on these taxes will give you some ammunition to challenge your elected officials. And remember, vote. It's your right, guys. This is Realtor Jonathan B.J. Hayes. I just want to say thank you guys for tuning in with me here. If anybody has any questions about any of this information we went over, all my information is in the description below. Until we meet again, everybody stay safe, be blessed.